Hi all, thanks for tuning into this update video. I'm sorry that it's been a bit quiet the last few weeks, but as you can see, I'm chilling out on the beach. Well, I wish. That's just my new green screen I'm trying out. While we did have school holidays a week or so ago, I did indeed spend a lot of time out and about checking out zoos and the sorts of things with my kids. I've also been more busy than usual at my day job. While I've been able to do a few things on the Godot front, I have not had any time preparing a proper new video. A lot has happened in the last 2 weeks, so time for an update to bring everybody up to speed about what's been up and what I've been up to. First of all, release candidate 1 for Godot 3.03 was made available last week. This is a build with many small enhancements and fixes, including a few that came out of the Leap Motion development. More on Leap Motion later. The other news on this front is that this week a lot of pull requests were merged into the master branch with a lot of cool new features. What I'm particularly excited about is the CSG support that was added to the 3D renderer. The other exciting one is skeleton deformation for 2D games. This is just a tip of the iceberg. Literally dozens of enhancements have been added to 3.1. One change which is causing a little bit of grief on the VR front is that Godot discovered a small oversight in the enumeration of different GD native APIs. This required a breaking change on the GD native front, so the GD native VR modules compiled for Godot 3.0 will not work with 3.1. I'm still looking into this to see if I can find a way to make them work on both. I hope to have an update on that soon. For now, stick to Godot 3.0 for any VR work. On the Godot VR front, there are 3 things of interest that happened the past 2 weeks. The most important one is that we've created an organization on GitHub specifically for the VR-related repositories. This provides a far more visible location on the internet for people to find our projects than my personal page. I will keep my tutorial files and personal projects on my personal page, but for all the modules usable in Godot and all the assets, you'll find them in the new location. And yes, I have already been slammed for mixing underscores and hyphens. 2 new assets have been added to Godot. The first is still a pretty experimental state, and that is a first version of the OpenHMD driver. Only the Windows version is available at this point in time, but will soon add the Mac and Linux versions. OpenHMD brings in an open source alternative to using the Rift, Vive, PSVR, Windows MR sets, and others on a PC, and for many of these, it is the only way to make them work on Linux. The other asset is the first version of the Leap Motion driver that brings Leap Motion support to Godot. It's pretty functional. There really is just one more feature I want to add, after which it'll be a matter of using it and perfecting it. Unfortunately at this time, Leap Motion only supplies a Windows version of their Leap C API, so for the time being, this is a Windows-only driver. Last but not least, the Oculus driver asset has been updated with a new version that fixes the too bright issue. This year, Godot is participating in Google Summer of Code. Google is supporting open source development by funding students all over the world to do a sort of online internship with various organizations during the summer break. Those organizations in turn make staff available to mentor these students. Godot is participating this year for the first time, and the number of submissions by students was simply overwhelming. As I understand it, normally new organizations get to pick 2 students out of the lineup, as both students and new organizations have some experience together. Google ended up awarding 5 students a project with Godot. For me personally, I will be involved with one of the students who will be spending his summer working on Gear VR and Daydream support. There are no guarantees here whether this will be finished at the end, and that's not really the goal of Summer of Code. The goal is for the student to gather experience. If a working solution comes out of it, that's a bonus. That said, I'm confident that by the end of the summer we'll have something to show for all our efforts. There are a few annoying technical difficulties to overcome, including an OpenGL-related issue affecting most flagship Android phones, but we'll do our best anyway. As you can see behind me, the terrain editor is coming along nicely. I still haven't decided where I'm going to take this, especially as others are hard at work building a terrain editor into Godot itself that is far more complete. I've shared my source code with them so they can incorporate those parts of interest, and will keep doing so as I improve mine. There are also changes going into the core of Godot we all benefit from. I may yet decide to open source this, and I will definitely do more videos explaining how I've solved certain things. For now, I've got a very simple UI going. The splat map now supports 5 textures, and each texture now supports normal maps and PBR maps. One of these days, I need to get my head around Substance Painter so I can actually make use of these features. I've also finished the logic that allows me to apply different brush styles and a terrain smooth function. Finally, there are a number of improvements in rendering the terrain itself, including fixing the level of detail seams that were causing the gaps in my previous version. Not a lot has happened with the RTS game I'm working on, as I've mostly spent my time around the terrain editor. Obviously, I've loaded a sample terrain, replacing the grid map based level, and the player tanks now interact with this terrain and can move around the terrain just fine. I'm nearing a point where I'm happy enough with the terrain editor that I'll be focusing more time on starting to build the game mechanics, and I will be doing a devlog video when I get there. You'll also notice that the water looks a lot better now. We have a new creator in our midst who created this awesome water shader and made it available for download on the asset library. It's actually using the standard material shader in Godot. The effect is created by using a new reflection capabilities of the shader in combination with an animation player that animates the offsets of the normal map used to create the illusion of waves. The guy or girl who created this also has a YouTube channel on which he or she uploaded a video providing far more detail about this shader. I'll link that in the description below. Looking at the coming weeks, I have a few things in the pipeline that will all depend on how busy I'll be at my day job. I am working on a new tutorial that I can't say too much about yet, so stay tuned for that. I haven't forgotten about VR either. I'm hoping to spend time soon on creating a proper demo game using the Leap Motion in VR, and by the looks of things I'll be looking into support for Microsoft mixed reality headsets and controllers. And then there is the green screen behind me. This may be one of my more ambitious projects, and with the limited space I have available will require some creative positioning of things, but I hope to experiment with mixing green screen and VR content as the next part of my VR tutorial series. There is a lot more work involved in this, so I don't expect to have this done very soon, but it is coming. I'm not sure if I will keep using the green screen for tutorial videos though. It was fun doing this video, but I look dumb. Well, that's more than enough for today. I hope you enjoyed this little update, and I would appreciate a thumbs up if you did. See you next time!